My sister betrayed me after I took her in, having an affair with my husband, getting pregnant, and demanding I leave so they could start a family. I'm 34 years old, and a few months ago, I allowed my sister, Julie, 28, to move in with me because she was in a bad financial situation. Julie lost her work when her firm closed, and 2 weeks later, she became gravely ill with West Nile virus. After discussing it with my parents, I agreed she could move in with me for a few weeks so I could care for her, monitor her recovery, and help her save money on rent because it was evident she wouldn't be able to work again soon. She was at rock bottom, and I was the one who stepped up to help her because our parents live far away and she does not have many friends who can support her. I believed it was the appropriate thing to do, assist a family member or friend in need. But how did she compensate me? By engaging in an affair with my husband. On top of that, she had the audacity to tell me that I should leave so they could start their happy family, because she is now pregnant. This all came to light a few days back. Julie invited my husband and me to sit down because she had something important to say. I believed she was finally going to move out after recovering well in recent weeks. I imagined she was going to proclaim that she was ready to return to work and leave our life. Instead, she revealed that she and my husband had been having an affair for the past few weeks, and she was now pregnant. When I looked at my husband, I could see he was just as shocked as I was. Julie had clearly not discussed it with him before telling me. That explains a lot. After admitting she was pregnant with my husband's child, she apologized for what had transpired and said she knew how surprised I was. But she said, "What's done is done, and the past can't be changed." She then had the arrogance to ask me to leave the house since she would be uncomfortable around me in her current state. I was furious, but I remained calm. I discreetly assured her that I wasn't leaving because the house was mine. If anyone had to leave, it would be her, and she could take my unfaithful husband with her. They could have their happy family anywhere they wanted since I was going to file for divorce and did not want to see one of them again. I spoke as quietly as I could, trying to keep my wrath under control and handle the matter with dignity. They had already surprised me, so I was not going to let them see me lose control. When I told her this was my property and I was not leaving, she thought I was joking. But then my spouse stepped in and confirmed that I was not joking. He explained that he owned nothing, which surprised Julie. He had apparently lied to her about everything. For reference, my husband and I have been together for 8 years and married for the past 5. A few months after our wedding, I took a gamble and launched my own business. Fortunately, it did quite well, so my husband and I decided he could stay at home and pursue writing full-time, a passion he has always enjoyed. For the past 4 years, he's been working on his big novel while doing housework. We didn't have children, so there wasn't much to do. The house and everything in it belonged to me because I purchased them, and we both agreed that owning everything made sense. I bet he regrets it now. When my husband acknowledged to Julie that he didn't own anything and had lied, she lost it. She began ranting at him, calling him a phony and a liar, and claiming she had been duped. It was pleasant to see her lose her cool with him, but I was unconcerned about their conflict. I just wanted them out of my house. I had to intercede and tell them to stop yelling at each other because I wanted them to go right away. I didn't give them much time to pack, I simply wanted them out of my sight. To his credit, my spouse understood he couldn't persuade himself out of this. He understood how much I treasured my self-esteem and dignity, and he knew I'd never forgive adultery. So he discreetly walked into our bedroom and began packing. Julie, on the other hand, dropped on her knees and begged me for forgiveness. She stated she'd do everything to correct it, but she needed a place to live and couldn't be evicted, especially since she was pregnant with my nephew. The mention of family infuriated me. I grabbed her arm, yanked her up, and pushed her out the door. I was tough, but I didn't care. I was infuriated. I was furious that she dared to call us family after sleeping with my husband. She continued to wail and beg on the porch, but I closed the door. Then I went to the guest room and hurriedly put all of her belongings into her luggage before throwing them outside. I warned her to leave or I'd contact the cops. She kept crying, but I simply slammed the door and returned inside. A few minutes later, my husband emerged with his baggage and apologized sincerely. I pretended to not hear him. Julie screamed and begged on the porch for approximately an hour after he departed, but I turned on my headphones and ignored her. I eventually sensed the silence, and realized she had finally departed. That night, I called my lawyer, explained everything, and stated that I intended to file for divorce. I had planned to notify my family and friends later, but my dad called the next day. They thought what I had done was terrible. They accused me of being unkind and inconsiderate to Julie, who had recently been through a lot. I found this unusual because my parents had always treated all of us equally. It wasn't like Julie was their favorite. But when they started defending her, something didn't feel right with me. They informed me that they knew she was pregnant and that I couldn't kick her out of the house in that condition, especially because she was between jobs and recovering from a terrible illness. They told her it would take some time to get back on her feet. And, anyway, she didn't have anyone else who could take care of her like I could. Her friends were coping with their own money problems, jobs, and families, so they couldn't care for her. My parents insisted that as her sister, the least I could do was forgive her ignorance and be there for her. Furthermore, they reminded me that my husband had seduced her, not the other way around. They claimed he told her that he was in charge of our finances and a prominent novelist and screenwriter. He reportedly did not want celebrity, thus he remained incognito. My sister, being naive, believed everything and thought he was important. That's why she believed his falsehoods. But then things got worse. She claimed she was having an affair with him and believed they could drive me out of the house together. Unfortunately for them, their scheme failed. Especially because they had not even synchronized their stories. When she admitted everything, she wrecked it for both of them. So I stood my ground. I looked her in the eye and said, "What sister? I don't have a sister." Then I argued that I had every right to kick her out because she chose to betray me and my husband. It didn't matter if he played a role. They both opted to stab me in the back. It made no sense to kick him out and let her stay as if nothing had occurred. I didn't care if she was pregnant or unemployed. I had previously weighed those concerns before allowing her to stay with me for months. How did she compensate me? By having an affair with my spouse inside my own home. Besides, it's not like she was significantly pregnant and unable to cope on her own. She was barely a couple of weeks along. Even if she was 9 months pregnant, I would have kicked her out. What she did was awful. She was ready to throw me out because she thought the house belonged to my husband, so I consider it poetic justice. But my parents insisted I was being too tough. They focused on how I handled the matter rather than what she did. I was bored of hearing the same arguments, so I hung up. Since then, we have not spoken. Do you believe I was wrong to kick my pregnant sister out of my home? Update 1. I understand that some people think forcing a pregnant lady out of my house is wrong, but keeping her under my roof after what she did would be insanity. Fortunately, most people agree I was correct and believe she should find another place to stay. Yesterday I blocked my parents. This scenario has taken a significant emotional toll on me, but I am unable to stop working. I'm the boss, therefore I have to have a tough demeanor at work. It's business as usual, but when I return home, I completely broke down. The emotional pain is overwhelming. A few days ago, my lawyer and I filed for divorce. My husband will be served soon, and I doubt he will oppose it. He knows me well enough to know I will not let him off the hook if he tries. But, even though I am sure of my decision, it still aches. Winning the divorce will not magically make things better. I can't believe that after 8 years together, he'd betray me, with my own sister. I truly believed we were in love, that we would grow old together. Now I'm questioning everything we've ever had. Perhaps this was not his first affair. Perhaps this is not his first arrest. The thought of that tears my heart. But all I can do now is accept it and try to go on. He is the only one that has not attempted to contact me since I kicked him out. My parents and Julie have tried, but only to persuade me to let her stay again for free. My folks are taking her side, which is absurd. In my initial post, I mentioned that my parents always treated Julie and me equally. Now, I'm not too sure. I never had big expectations for Julie. We weren't best friends, but our friendship wasn't horrible. That is why I agreed to help her and allow her to stay with me. We had an extra room, and I thought, why not? My parents also supported it, and I assume that's what families do. But I didn't expect her to betray me like this. It hurts when someone you've been assisting for months stabs you in the back. Acceptance is even more difficult with my parents. They have always been reasonable and fair, so I anticipated them to be furious with Julie. To be fair, they were. Our chats made it plain that they disapproved of her activities, but they insisted that the damage is done, and now we need to move on. I'm not sure what's gotten into them, but I'm quite disappointed. I feel like I've lost all respect for them, and I'm not sure if it will ever be recovered. I'm emotionally drained. Mentally, I'm just focused on work because my personal life has completely collapsed. I haven't even informed my pals what's going on, but I know I'll have to eventually. My spouse and I have many shared acquaintances, and I'd rather they heard the truth from me than what he says. At this point, I'm not sure what to expect from anyone. Currently, I'm focusing 2 things. Ensure that my work does not suffer. Handling the divorce. I'm fairly positive my hubby won't object. I've been fair with the terms, but there's always the possibility of the unexpected, so I'm gathering the essential papers just in case. Aside from that, I'm attempting to keep my thoughts as clear as possible. The last thing I want is to spin out of control. Sharing my feelings here has been quite beneficial. I really thank everyone who has reached out, commented, and offered support. It means more to me than you realize. Update 2. My spouse, as I had predicted, did not dispute the divorce. He texted me to confirm that the terms were fair. In another message, he stated that he had been thinking about how to apologize to me but couldn't come up with anything that didn't sound weak or dishonest. So, he decided to simply say it. He is sorry. He admitted that he lied to Julie to impress her because he felt inadequate. He felt purposeless because he didn't own anything, was financially dependent on me, and didn't have any children. His novel was not progressing, and he felt as if he had squandered 4 years on something pointless. That irritation led to sadness, but he couldn't accept it. To himself, let alone to me. Then Julie arrived. Without considering how wicked it was, he began lying to her to inflate his ego. He claimed to be in charge of our finances and successful in his work. Eventually, they slept together. He expected it to be a one-time error, but it spun out of control. Despite his guilt, he could not stop. It became his technique of avoiding all that was wrong in his life. When Julie became pregnant and we had our argument, everything fell apart. He said he truly regretted everything. He admits he wrecked what we had, but he claimed it was the first and last time he cheated. He implored me to believe him, hoping that one day I would forgive him. I cried after reading that message. It was another reminder of what I had lost. I felt I knew this man. That we had a solid connection based on love. But everything fell apart in one day. Losing that trust is painful, and I know everyone who has experienced divorce or betrayal understands how I feel. A part of me wanted to detest him. To concentrate on all the bad things he has done. However, it still hurts. I hated myself for crying at his message. But after I finished, I gained enough strength to block him. I didn't respond. He did not deserve a response, especially now, when everything was so raw. After a while, I became even upset over what he had said. All he needed to do was talk to me. I never made him feel bad for staying at home and working on his novel. I'm not a really creative person, I've never been interested in writing or anything like that. Except now, I suppose, because I need to get this off my chest. But I admired his artistic side. I saw nothing wrong with him staying at home. Perhaps his weak masculine ego couldn't withstand it. Perhaps other people made comments that made him bitter. But after 8 years together, he could have at least told me what was going on. We married because we wanted to support each other, and I would have been there for him. Maybe we could have worked things out together, but he decided not to. He relied on Julie instead, which is how we ended up in this predicament. The more I think about it, the more horrible and tragic it appears. He lied about so many things to make himself look bigger and better. It is pathetic. I loved him for who he was, but it wasn't enough for him. This will never make sense to me. At least with Julie, I understand her motivation. She desired my life without making any effort. She felt she could accomplish this by becoming pregnant and moving in with my so-called wealthy spouse. But now, I can just choose to ignore her existence. In a few months, I'll be finished with the divorce, and I won't have to see or worry about him again. Update 3. It's been a few days since my last update, and I've enjoyed some tranquil days. But this morning, my folks arrived at my residence. It was unusual because they had rarely visited my father's hometown since moving there to oversee the family business with my uncle. Usually, Julie and I had to go see them. The fact that they flew to see me indicated something significant. But I knew they were just here to chat about Julie. So, as I opened the door, I informed them directly. If they came here to talk about her, I didn't want to hear it. There's only one Sunday a week, and I wasn't going to waste it rehashing the same theme. I had said what I needed to say, and there was nothing further to talk. I made it clear, they could only come in if they apologized to me first. They had two options. Apologize, leave. I set very clear boundaries. My parents, however, insisted that they had come particularly to discuss Julie. They stated that we needed to discuss this since the way I was treating her and them was not appropriate. To them, we were family, and families deal with things differently. Once again, they began with the family angle. And, like with Julie, I lost my tolerance. This is not how families treat one another. At least not in the type of family I'd like to have. I will offer them this. In this family, we approach things differently. My sister sleeps with my husband, and I kick her out of the house. That is obviously different from most families. I lay everything out for them. They tried to stutter and argue, but I didn't let them. I rushed through everything they could have said. By the end, my mother was in tears. But they were on my land, and I could talk to them as I pleased. especially since they decided to trouble me this morning. The entire conversation should have been addressed to Huli, the person who truly did something wrong. Not me. After I finished ranting, my mother was sobbing so hard that my father informed me he never wanted to communicate with me again. He called me a terrible daughter for making my own mother cry, the lady who gave me life. But I don't care. They can call me insane if they want. I know I am not, and that is sufficient for me. If anyone is insane, it is them. Or my sister. And honestly, perhaps all three of them. Update 4. It's been a month since I last updated. I haven't contacted anyone in my family, including Julie, and especially not my parents. I just know that they've been sending her money. According to several others, my soon-to-be ex-husband is currently living with his parents. He intends to relocate to another state after his divorce is finalized. Before you ask, I have no idea what he intends to do about his child. Most of our friends now have a clear understanding of what happened. The majority have begun to cut him out of their life. A few people are trying to remain impartial and avoid becoming engaged. As for me, my life is slowly but steadily getting back on track. I'll do whatever it takes to keep my peace now. I'm not exactly joyful yet, but I'm peaceful, which is a significant improvement over last month. Little by little, I know I'll be happy again. Following all, bad things seldom last forever. Update 5. This update is very recent since some new developments have occurred that you may be interested in learning about. My sister lost the baby and blamed me for it. According to her, the stress I produced led to her miscarriage. My parents are also on this mission with her. The bright side is that they don't annoy me directly. This is all coming from neutral folks who claim they are not taking sides but nonetheless accuse me of killing a baby out of pride. It's funny, though, because none of these folks have welcomed my sister into their houses. So, by their logic, they're equally culpable as I am. If my sister was concerned about her pregnancy, she should not have slept with someone else's husband, particularly her sister's. At the very least, she should have used protection. Nothing in this circumstance is normal. But when people make such illogical allegations, it isn't worth my time or energy. Update 6. My ex-husband contacted me a few hours ago, and you will not believe what he said. No, he did not beg me to return. We didn't end on such bad terms, which is why I reacted. He admitted he was wrong and, to his credit, made the divorce procedure simple. I don't harbor grudges against him, not because he deserves them, but because I don't want to waste my time being angry or thinking about him. No cheater is worth it. What he told me, however, was quite interesting. He confirmed that my sister had never been pregnant. He called to let me know since he had heard everything stated about me and wanted me to know the truth. He told them the same thing. Apparently, he'd been pressing her for proof of her pregnancy and even volunteered to accompany her to a doctor's appointment multiple times. She constantly avoided it. She eventually announced that she had lost the baby. When he asked for evidence, she didn't have any. He spoke with my parents, who also had no proof. There is no record of her becoming pregnant or losing the baby. She simply chose one day to inform everyone that she had miscarried, and that was it. So now, all of the claims against me for causing her to lose the baby are meaningless. My parents have attempted to contact me to reconcile, and they have even ceased financially supporting her now that they know they will not be grandparents. But really? It is too little, too late. I don't care what they do to my sister anymore. When I was betrayed, all I needed was their support, the kind that any moral parent would give a child in my situation. So, no. It's a no for them too. In conclusion, my sister lost a brother, a home, and my assistance because she decided to sleep with my husband and fake a pregnancy. My parents lost a daughter because they chose lies over the truth. I think the three of them should go to Vegas and try their luck. Perhaps gaming will be better for them than family. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.